I always teach that we can connect a real event to another desirable one that first exists only in the imagination. When we follow simple laws, what is imagined begins to happen in the concrete world. This is not mysticism. It is an ordered way of using the mind at the alpha level with purpose. In this series, I will guide you step by step with direct and practical language. Today, I present the 4 laws that govern this process. Later, we will apply the 3 steps. Law 1, desire. First of all, you need to desire the event to happen. The mind does not work well with empty or foolish goals that lack meaning. Reasonable desires, such as a kinder boss or a more receptive client, mobilize energy. When the goal makes sense, your attention naturally turns toward it. It is this genuine interest that sets the process in motion. Law of belief, then. You must believe that the event can occur. If objective reality makes it impossible, your own mind will create resistance. Belief is not self, it is alignment with what is plausible at the moment. Without enough belief, you visualize on one side and cancel on the other. The mind works in your favor only when reason and image do not contradict each other. Law 3, expectation, finally. It is necessary to expect the event to happen. Many people desire and believe, but they still do not truly expect the result. This expectation is dynamic. It ignites effective visualization and sustains focus. Here is where mental control comes in as a technique to educate the mind. In the next steps, you will feel how practice creates this expectation. Law 4, you cannot create a problem at the alpha level. Tuned to the higher intelligence, evil simply does not operate. Trying to harm someone will either pull you out of the level or make the effect turn against you. Much harm is done in the beta stage. That is not where we apply this method. Therefore, always choose solutions that improve life years and that of others. With this clear ethic, results become consistent and safe. The exercise always begins with something real. Choose an event you have already experienced. Something simple and concrete. It may be, for example, opening the door of your house or placing the key in the lock. This real event is the starting point to connect your mind with what you want to create. The memory of this gesture serves as an anchor, because the mind exactly recognizes and accepts what has already happened. In this way, we take the first steps without resistance, establishing the foundation of the process. As you recall, this real act, visualize it clearly. Imagine yourself in front of the door, touching the key, hearing the click. The more sensory details you include, the easier it will be to maintain concentration. This detail is important because the unconscious mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination. It responds to vivid images as if they were real experiences. Therefore, your task is simply to make the memory clear and concrete. Now, without interrupting the scene, gently introduce the desired event. You should not force the visualization, but let it arise in a natural sequence. If you want, for example, to meet someone with greater kindness, see the scene this way. After opening the door, imagine yourself being welcomed with a smile. The real event opens the way for the imagined one, and the two unite in a single current. This chaining is fundamental. The brain works better when it links a familiar picture to a new one. Just as an electric current needs continuity, the mental current also needs it. The real event functions as a switch that turns on the lamp of imagination. You are not creating out of nothing, but expanding what already exists. It is this technique that gives strength and stability to the practice. It is not magic, but method. With each repetition, the mind begins to accept the new picture, first as a possibility, then as a real expectation. Thus, what was only imagined begins to take shape. The mind organizes thoughts, emotions, and actions to bring this scene into reality. This is the power of the first step, uniting reality and imagination in a continuous line. Once the connection between the real event and the imagined event is established, repetition comes into play. The human mind learns through repetition. This is how we create habits and stable memories. When you relive a scene several times, it becomes imprinted in deeper levels of consciousness. The brain interprets this practice as a real experience lived repeatedly. In this way, visualization stops being just an image and starts becoming a memory in formation. As you repeat, keep the same sequence. First the real, then the desired. Always return to the initial gesture, simple and concrete, that is already part of your life. Only then allow the imagined picture to appear again, effortlessly, in a natural way. This repeated sequence gives consistency to the practice. like bricks supporting a wall. Each time you do it, you reinforce the message to your unconscious. It is not enough to repeat mechanically. It is essential to put emotion and attention into each scene. The unconscious mind responds more intensely when thought is charged with feeling. If you imagine being welcomed with kindness, feel the joy of that meeting. Let the emotion accompany the image, just as color gives life to a drawing. In this way, the scene will not only be remembered, but also felt. Repetition should not be rushed. A few intense visualizations are better than many superficial ones. Dedicate a few minutes at the alpha level, 2 or 3 times a day. This rhythm allows the mind to absorb without fatigue or distraction. Over time, you will notice that the scene comes almost by itself, clear and vivid. This is a sign that repetition is putting down strong roots. When the unconscious accepts the new scene as a natural part of your reality, something changes in you. You begin to behave as if the result were inevitable. This behavior, in turn, changes the way the world responds to you. The environment adjusts to what your mind already expects. This is how repetition transforms imagination into tangible reality. In the third step, we learn to carry the image beyond the present, projecting it into the future. After linking the real to the imagined and repeating until it is fixed, it is time to expect the result. This expectation is not anxiety, but a calm confidence that the mental picture will come true. When you project the future in this way, the mind begins to align circumstances and opportunities. What once seemed distant draws closer, attracted by the conviction created at the deeper level. In practice, place yourself mentally a few days ahead. See the desired scene happening as if it were today, but in a future time. Imagine details that confirm the result. The setting, the words, the gestures. This anticipation creates a bridge between the now and what is to come. The mind works to fill that bridge, attracting the necessary conditions. The right kind of expectation does not demand excessive effort. It is a calm certainty, like knowing that the sun will rise tomorrow. You do not need to watch constantly, only to trust. The earlier repetition has already planted the seed. Now, expectation allows it to bloom. This state of confidence is essential to avoid blocking the process. Many confuse expectation with anxious desire. Desire insists on pressures, but expectation rests on conviction. Those who desire too much may create tension and doubt, weakening the result. But those who wait calmly strengthen the mental picture. The unconscious mind responds better to serenity than to agitation. When this expectation becomes part of you, the world begins to respond. Situations, people, and events seem to align with the picture you have created. It is as if reality adjusts itself to confirm what you already expected. At this point, imagination ceases to be mere possibility and becomes prediction. And this prediction, sustained by expectation, takes shape in real life. When I teach the Silva method, I always give one essential warning. At the alpha level, evil cannot prosper. This state of mind is like a fine-tuning with higher intelligence. If someone attempts to program something negative, the frequency breaks and the level dissolves. The unconscious mind, aligned with universal harmony, does not accept destructive commands. That is why I insist, the method only works when we seek solutions for good. Many have asked me whether it would be possible to use the technique to harm. My answer has always been clear. Evil may be practiced in the beta state, but never in alpha. Alpha is a field where the mind is open, but also protected by the natural order. Any destructive intention expels the person from this level of consciousness. It is like trying to sow stones in fertile soil. Nothing will grow. This law of protection is not a punishment, but a safeguard. It ensures that the power of the mind is used to heal, to help, and to create solutions. When someone visualizes health, harmony, or fair success, the process finds support. Mental energy flows without blocks because it is in tune with life. That is why the results are so consistent and positive. The unconscious recognizes noble intentions and responds with cooperation. Those who desire peace find peace. Those who desire healing find the resources to heal. This principle reinforces the confidence that we are dealing with a constructive force. We do not need to fear the misuse of the technique because it rejects misuse on its own. Thus, the practitioner can advance with calmness and safety. Understanding this law frees the mind from doubt. You know that when entering alpha, you can only create what is good. This gives courage to repeat the exercises, project the future, and maintain expectation. Ethics and practice unite ensuring progress without risks. This is the true spirit of the method, to use the mind to serve life. I always repeat that imagination is the language of the mind. Just as we use words to communicate with one another, we use images to communicate with the unconscious. The clearer and more detailed the visualization, the stronger the message sent. The brain does not distinguish between a lived experience and an imagined one experienced with intensity. Therefore, creating vivid images is like giving direct orders to the deeper mind. Clarity comes from practice and attention to detail. It is not enough to think of something vaguely. It is necessary to build the scene as if it were real. Imagine sounds, colors, movements, and even physical sensations. The more elements you include, the more convincing the experience will be for your mind. That is how visualization ceases to be mere fantasy and becomes programming. This process does not require forced effort. If you concentrate excessively, you may create tension and lose the alpha state. Visualization should be natural, almost like daydreaming, but with conscious direction. In this state, the mind opens and absorbs the created picture with ease. The gentleness of the practice is part of the method's secret. A good way to train is to choose simple scenes from daily life. Mentally recreate a cup of coffee being served, a book being opened, a window being closed. Then add the desired event, linked in a natural sequence. In this way, you train your mind to accept new images connected to real experiences. It is the simplicity that makes the exercise effective. With practice, you will notice that you can even visualize complex scenes with clarity. Your mind will become more trained to build quick, vivid images. This development strengthens not only the technique, but also your daily creativity. Clear visualization opens the way to intuition, to problem solving, and to new ideas. That is why I consider this point one of the pillars of the Silva method. I always say that an image without emotion is like a seed without water. It may exist, but it does not sprout or take deep root. The unconscious mind responds with greater intensity when visualization comes loaded with feeling. That is why, when projecting a desired event, it is not enough just to see the scene. It is necessary to feel it as if it were already real, fully involving yourself. When you imagine being welcomed with kindness, feel the joy of that encounter. Let the emotion warm your mind, as if you were truly living the moment. This feeling creates a vibration that reinforces positive expectation. Emotion works as the energy that gives life to the mental image. The more sincere it is, the greater the strength of the programming. It is not about forcing artificial feelings. The secret is to let emotion arise naturally, stimulate it by the image created. Visualize the result calmly and let the feeling come. It may manifest as tranquility, confidence, or gentle joy. This balance between seeing and feeling is what fixes the picture in the unconscious. The union of image and emotion also generates changes in the body. The heart responds, the breathing adjusts, the muscles relax. It is as if the entire body believed in the scene. This physical state confirms to the mind that the event has real value. Thus, the programming gains an even stronger foundation. With constant practice, emotion integrates with visualization automatically. You will no longer need to remind yourself to feel it. It will arise spontaneously. At this point, your mind will be trained to respond with doubled power. What was imagined becomes inevitable, because it has already been lived in the emotional field. And this is the key to turning images into realities. Everything we have learned in life was consolidated through repetition. Walking, speaking, writing every skill came from continuous practice. In the same way, programming the mind requires daily training, even if only for a few minutes. It is not occasional intensity that creates results, but silent consistency. It is this regularity that turns the technique into a natural habit. By repeating daily, you send the same message to the unconscious many times. In the beginning, it may seem like only a mental exercise with no visible effects. But little by little, the mind begins to accept the picture as a possible reality. This internal acceptance creates small changes in behavior, and these changes naturally attract external conditions. It is not necessary to dedicate hours for repetition to work. A few minutes, 2 or 3 times a day, always at the alpha level, are enough. What matters is that the practice remains constant without long interruptions. Over time, the mind begins to respond automatically, and visualization no longer requires much effort to stay alive. Repetition also strengthens confidence. Each time you practice, you feel that you are nourishing your own mind. This sense of progress reduces doubts and insecurities. You begin to expect results naturally, and expectation, as we have seen, is an essential part of the process. When daily repetition becomes habit, it integrates into life. Just like brushing your teeth, you will perform the exercise almost without thinking. This is the point at which the technique reaches its greatest effectiveness. A well-trained mind continues programming even without conscious effort. And what once was only imagination becomes concrete reality. I discovered over the years that the right moment greatly enhances the exercise. The mind is more receptive at certain times of the day, when brain activity naturally approaches the alpha level. These moments are right after waking up and just before going to sleep. In these transitions, consciousness is half awake and half dreaming. It is there that mental programming penetrates with greater ease. Upon waking, the mind still holds the serenity of sleep. It is a precious moment to plant positive images that will influence the rest of the day. You may imagine harmonious encounters, strengthened health, or goals achieved. This morning practice works as an inner direction for your actions, and with each repeated morning, the habit is reinforced. At night, before sleep, the practice has another value. The images created at this moment are carried by the unconscious during sleep. They remain active, being worked on by the mind in silence. While the body rests, the programming continues to operate. Thus, sleep becomes a powerful ally in the transformation of reality. I also recommend practicing during quiet pauses throughout the day. A few minutes of silence, even in the midst of routine, can renew your mental energy. These brief practices act as reminders that keep the desired picture alive. The place does not matter as much as the willingness to enter the right level. With this, each day becomes an opportunity to reinforce the exercise. The secret is to create regularity, taking advantage of the best moments. There is no need for rigidity, only constancy. Over time, your mind will learn to enter alpha quickly in any situation, and programming will be effective both at sunrise and at nightfall. This mastery of timing strengthens the entire process and accelerates results. Now that we have gone through each step, you already know that there is no mystery but method. First, we recognize the 4 laws: to desire, to believe, to expect, and to remember that evil does not prosper in alpha. Then, we apply the 3 steps. Link the real to the imagined. Repeat until it is fixed, and project the future with expectation. Everything is built naturally, like a continuous current. What begins as a mental image ends up manifesting in the concrete world. Practice shows that the mind is an obedient instrument. It responds to what we record with clarity, emotion, and repetition. It does not distinguish between real and imagined when we are at the alpha level. That is why it is up to us to choose constructive, positive, and just images. In this way, we transform imagination into a creative force. With discipline, the mind becomes accustomed to working in our favor. The unconscious begins to act as a silent ally, organizing thoughts and behaviors. What once seemed impossible becomes probable and then inevitable. This transformation is gradual but secure, the fruit of daily training, and each small result reinforces confidence in the process. The key lies in uniting simplicity and constancy. No excessive effort is needed, only serene commitment. A few minutes a day at the right moment are enough to sow change. When we unite desire, belief, and expectation, the mind responds, and that which once existed only as an image takes shape in reality. I conclude by always reminding that this method must serve the good. The mind is powerful, but it only flourishes in harmony with life. Use this practice to heal, to help, to transform for the better. In doing so, you will experience not only external results, but also inner peace. And you will understand that too. Imagine with love is the first step to creating a more human world.